Coming up this week on Beyond the Vibe, we're talking with Brad Marr, lead vocalist of Massive.
And then we pissed off to America with no plan. Like, we had nothing. We didn't even have accommodation booked. We went from playing a couple of gigs to having an international record deal, and then we had billboards up in the UK, and we were on magazine covers, and we told all our friends we had this big going away party. We're not coming back for a year. And then after 60 days, we'd had no more gigs, no more money, had nowhere to go. We had no agent, no management, no label, and we had to fly back to Australia. We replaced their music with horn sounds, and we're all on stage. We're all on stage, like, standing still, and you can just hear, for like a minute and a half. They couldn't do anything until their backing track finished. We never were a pranking band, but we prank every band we go on tour with now. Like, it's just sort of a thing, and we always try to top ourselves up. But the band that started the pranks was...
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Vibe, the show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Day, lead guitarist of UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with music videographer and photographer. It's Mr. Ryan Benjamin Lord of Vasey.
That might be the most elaborate introduction to date.
Absolute best funny. What is your middle name?
What is my middle name?
What's your middle name?
Here we go. Drum roll. Serious moment time. All right. It's a double barrel. Trevor Thomas.
Trevor Thomas. Oh,
beautiful.
You sound like an accountant. Love that. Do you know my middle name?
No. There you go.
Lawrence
of Arabia.
I wish it was. Aaron Lawrence of Arabia Day.
That'd be amazing.
I wish my middle name was Pancake.
Lawrence Pancake Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top class.
That was a good joke, that was, wasn't it? I'm glad we're starting the show off well. How are you, Mr. Vasey?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's interesting now. The world's opening back up, isn't it?
Yes, we're looking forward. We're looking forward to gigs, going back. The band are going back to the practice room. Me and the boys at some point in the next few weeks. I'm a bit nervous.
Really?
We ain't seen each other for a while, man. Do you know what I mean? I can't wait to see Sam Boy. I mean, no discredit to me, to Hartwell or Dan, but Sam's my little ball of filth, and I can't wait to see him.
I've never heard of somebody being described lovingly as a ball of filth.
A little ball of filth. He's lovely. I just want him to put him in my pocket. And he's been mumbling to himself like, fucking, and look after him. But yeah, it's just, because we've not played a lot of the new material live. Apart from the singles before, like Shine On and Floyd. So I think it'll be a good test for us, like I think before or on the Wednesday I might just sit and go through the songs whilst I'm at work, because obviously working from home and just try and get into the jam of it. But no, I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be good. I'll tell you what I've been doing. I've been listening to the new Treatment album.
Yes.
Obviously came out very recently after we spoke to Danny.
Yes.
What's your vibes?
Great.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. No discredit to what my thoughts were going to be, but it feels like it's closer to that first record, which I know for me and you is very much our typical.
Well, it felt to me from the interview that the guys were more comfortable with that kind of sound. It's like they were like, that's
searching
who we are.
For it, yeah.
That's the sound that we are. And that reflects in this album. I feel like they've struck a sound that they're comfortable with, that they want.
It feels like it's focused around a sound. Like they explore. We speak a lot about bands, and Treatment could easily fall into this bracket of having one sound. But I feel with the new album, Waiting for Good Luck, it's got enough texture within it. I don't find myself getting bored as it goes on. And I really like the new vocalist. He's got this Rod Stewart vibe about him, and I dig it, man.
It's interesting. It's got an overarching sound, but it's varied.
Yes, it's got textures and it dips into different areas, but it retains that core sound and identity. Which I'm pleased for them. I hope it does well.
It was really awesome seeing when the album was released, this wave of positive feedback.
Yes.
That came through, and you can, because you do feel that this band's been on a bit of a journey there.
Yeah, man.
They've had a lot of transitions, and
we spoke about that.
When we spoke about it, and that you can feel it coming from the band. They're like, yes, we've got something that works, and we're happy with it.
No, I agree, and I think that's why they're really pushing it. I hope it gets what they deserve from it. Hey, guess what?
What's that?
Got a new guitar this week.
A new guitar?
It's not Gretsch either. Sorry, Gretsch.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I saw advertised this Jet guitars, only 150 quid.
Right.
I watched some reviews on them, and they said that obviously the electronics aren't great because of the price, but the actual guitar feels great. Like, it feels like a really good guitar for the money. So I've bought it, and I'm going to mod it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, where do you stand on relicking guitars? Do you know what that is?
That's where they make them look older, isn't it?
Yeah, if you were a
When they're
guitar,
about, what, a year old, but they made it look like it's.
because I've paid someone to relic one of my guitars, and I'm half tempted to either do this one myself or pay someone.
He's a fraud.
Wait, where do you sit with that? Don't say that, Ryan. That's very nasty. Where would you sit with that, Ryan?
Oh, I mean, they
look cool.
I understand the
Philip says, like.
Yeah, this is it. I understand the thinking behind it, but for me, a part of a guitar is like particularly an old looking guitar is, you know, the story that it comes with.
Mm.
Like, it's been on a journey, hasn't it? It looks like it's been on a journey.
Paid someone to do it. The journey's only been to the.
And yeah, for me the big problem would be if I was a guitar player and somebody came up to me and they went, "Oh, where's that guitar from? Like, what journey has it been on? You know, who's owned it previously to you? This, that, and the other." And you know, like, what are you gonna do?
I'll be like, "Fuck off, you nosy bastard! what do you want to know where it's been from? You're gonna nick it?"
Yeah. just getting this appraised. Yeah. No,
dodgy sod.
Yeah, for me, it's that kind of thing of like.
I know what you mean. A lot of people struggle with
organic.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, my Les Paul that I used since I was 16. You know, that's got knocks all over it, but I can remember each one, and it's, you know, I've got this attachment to the knocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a different thing. Whereas my telly, which has been relicked, is, you know, people will come up and they go, "What year is that?"
Yeah.
And it's like a fucking 4-year-old guitar.
So,
you know? So it's
established 2020.
Yeah, so it's not a cool vibe, but at the same time, I do like it. You know, it's a cool look, man. So maybe I won't relic it. I don't know. What do the people at home think? Let me know.
Yes.
Who are we talking to this week, Mr. Basie? Let's move on.
We have Brad.
Oh, lovely
Massive.
Brad. Lovely Brad.
Yes. Of course, we heard a bit of the stories from Massive.
I didn't realise they were this
time.
bad, you know, prankers. I mean, the thing is, when you say this bad, it makes you sound like they're a pain in the arse. Whereas when you watch the interview, like the way they come across is, I can't believe that bombshell they dropped about that particular band. There's a particular bombshell in this interview, people, that you would not expect.
I was surprised. There was another band,
Naughty Boys,
that was competing with Massive on the prank front.
Beat them, if anything, on the prank front.
You could argue that, yeah.
That's what set the prank journey off.
I know, and it's the most unlikeliest figures that you'd never think of, would you?
And you can find out who that was now.
Yes.
So we're here with Brad, lead singer and guitarist for Aussie Rockers Massive and the Sound Age podcast. Thanks for joining us, Brad.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
That's cool. So one thing that we like to do on this podcast, Brad, is we like to go right back to the beginning. So what came first for you? Was it the guitar or vocals?
Well, yeah. I guess probably vocals. I didn't have anyone in my family that was musical. I don't know how I got the musical gene. I was in choirs when I was, you know, in primary school when I was like 10 or 12 or something like that. I was in the youth choir or something like that. And then, when I went to high school, I picked up the guitar and wasn't any good at anything else. So I just kept playing music. I didn't really set out to be a musician or anything. It just happened when I went to school, I guess. So.
You got quite a distinctive rock sort of voice, man. I really kind of, when I think of you, I think of that quite distinctive thing. And you said about it all starting in the choir. I mean, did you, as time went on and you got into rock music, did you naturally did your voice just fall into that from what you was listening to, or was that there from the start, like that graveliness?
Definitely wasn't there from the start. I wasn't a very good singer for probably the first 3 bands that I was in. I was just this guy that used to sing kind of out of tune in a microphone. But I don't know. It just sort of naturally evolved to every song I would write would be a little bit higher than the last song. So I'd have to keep trying to learn how to sing higher and higher. And then at one point I realized if I sing any higher, I'll sound like a kettle. So that's probably high enough for me now. And that's where I'm at now.
I wish Art would take that inspiration, because I keep trying to write songs in a higher register and he keeps telling me to fuck off. So
that's why you need to be the band leader. You need to be a dictator in your band. Just say, everyone else, fuck off, this is what I'm doing.
I need to stop burning him when he doesn't know what I tell him. I think that's the key. Cool. So let's go straight into the band, into Massive. So how did the band start, and how did you guys meet?
Yeah, so me and the guitarist, Ben Laguda, we started the band in 2012, the end of 2012. We'd all been in bands for years. We'd all had various levels of suckiness before this. So we all kind of were at this point where we're sick of playing on, Tuesday nights to 10 people. Let's start a new band and make it big from the very start. So I met Ben Laguda he was actually playing like a covers gig, and it was a 70s crap night he was wearing a wig and a leopard print shirt with red pants, and it was horrible. He was up there playing lead guitar, and there was a keyboard player miming the keyboards, and a backing track had the drums, and this 50-year-old bald singer making these terrible jokes. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? We could be doing something better than this, man. Jesus Christ. So I just went up to him and said, let's start a band and go to America. And he goes, yeah, right, let's do it. No, we didn't really know each other. And he didn't know if I could sing or play guitar or anything. He just said, yeah, sure. So then we started a band, played a gig, and flew to America. Played one gig and then pissed off to America and tried to sell our 3-track EP that we'd made. So, yeah.
So what was it like for people who don't know when you went to America? What was it like when you made that decision? Because it's quite a big jump at that point to especially to convince one geezer.
No one knew us. We had nothing. So what we did to start, as I said, we didn't want to play Tuesday nights to 10 people anymore. So we booked a launch show, and we made it as big as possible. We told everybody about this show. And our first debut show was at this pub or this venue called the Gershon Room in Melbourne. And it's a touring venue. It's 600 capacity. Guns N' Roses played there on their first Australian tour. And it's this big concert hall. And we filled it on our debut show just because we had 6 months of promotion. And then we pissed off to America with no plan. We had nothing. We didn't even have accommodation booked. We just flew to America with 1,000 CDs and tried to meet famous people and get drunk and just give people our music and play any gig we could, any open mic night and then opening gigs. We tried to jump on anything and play to whoever would listen. So it was kind of a band initiation. This was our trial to see if we could actually get on the road and just be idiots for as long as we possibly could. So it worked.
That's cool. Well, I mean, kind of as a follow-on from that, so I mean, it was quite a fast rise for the band leading to the release of your debut album, Full Throttle. What was that like at the time for you guys, looking back? I remember, for me and the boys in Rivers, when you're doing it at the time, it's weird when you have a moment when you'll feel that change, when it just kind of takes a step up, and it's weird because your transition as a band seems a lot different than other ones. Like you say, your first gig was quite a big gig, whereas I think our first gig was in our local venue. We knew everyone there. So what was it like when that first album came out for you and the boys?
We got signed pretty quick as a band. We'd only played 30 gigs when we got signed to Earache Records. So we didn't have time to suck as a band. We didn't have time to have band arguments or even kind of work out exactly what Massive was when we started. We went from playing a couple of gigs to having an international record deal, and then we had billboards up in the UK and we were on magazine covers. So as a band, everyone's going, oh, this debut album's great. And it's yeah, it's still new for us too. We hadn't had that opportunity to be shit sort of thing. It probably hurt us in the long run because, you work out the problems after 50 or 100 or 200 gigs. You figure out, this person's flaky or we have to work this way or, we have to save this much amount of money. But we just went in and played. As I said, we went to America, we came back, we got management. Straight after we got back from America, this big management company picked us up. And then we released our album after maybe 8 gigs as a band. And then the day after we released it, we got signed to an independent label in Australia. So they pulled the album and then re-released it 3 months later. And then 3 months after that, we were signed to Earache. And they pulled the album again and re-released the album again. So, yeah, we went from nothing. 6 months later, we're playing a headline show in a big venue. And then 6 to 8 months later, we're signed to a big label and trying to make these crappy stories sound, like we're a legitimate band. We probably didn't have enough stories to fill those magazines at the time, but so we kind of just pushed our way through it and faked it till we made it.
That's mad, that is. It's a completely different story. I mean, for you as band leader, Brad, I mean, was that a pressure? Did you feel a lot of pressure at that time to kind of carry the band? And as you said, do you kind of wish you'd had a bit more time to, as you said, kind of build more of a foundation around the band?
Look, we weren't going to turn down a record label.
No, of course not.
Yeah, it was very handy for us. We did, as I said, we didn't have time to suck. So all the things that kind of went after getting that deal and all the mistakes we made, most bands make those in front of their friends and family and in front of small crowds. And here we are going out playing in theatres in Europe, having only played 50 shows as a band, and we didn't know who snored in the band. We didn't know our guitarist didn't have a driver's license, and until we're in Europe asking him to take shifts behind the wheel. So yeah, all those things we kind of found out, the hard way. So yeah, it probably would have been better in hindsight to suck for 2 or 3 or 5 years and then really earn that deal and earn that push. But we had an album that we thought was kick-ass, and the label thought it was awesome and they were willing to invest in it. So we were, happy that people found it good enough to put behind. So here we were, and we took every opportunity we could.
No, cool, man.
Your second album, Destination Somewhere, around that period you halted recording to write more songs. Was there a change in approach at that time, and what kind of prompted that decision in the first place?
I think, well, coming back to the fact we hadn't sucked yet, I think that was the problem. We wrote the first album was literally the first 11 songs we ever wrote. And then, we toured for a year and a half. We toured Europe, we toured Australia, we came back to Europe. We did all these big shows that we'd never even done before in our lives. And we hadn't got anything written for a second album. So when it came to recording, we're like, yeah, cool, let's just write a bunch of songs and go into the studio. And the first 5 songs we wrote were good, I guess, but the management we had was just like, nah, it's got to be better. So we stopped and went back on the road. And yeah, I think our second album, when we were writing it, we thought it was the best thing we'd ever done. Listening back, it's probably the most, I don't know, bullshit, try hard Led Zeppelin. We tried to make the best album in the world, and we were just a bunch of guys playing power chords. We didn't know what we were doing really, but at the time we thought it was the craziest, best album in the world. And then it didn't do as good as the second album, and people told us it sucked, and not people told us, but like people were just like, yeah, it doesn't live up to the hype, and we're like, nah, fuck you, it's the best thing in the world. Nah, but it wasn't. So we had some reality checks on the second album for sure.
No, I appreciate your honesty, man. I think it's difficult though, because when you're because we have a similar thing. When you're in the midst of writing it, you're just on such of a buzz from having that process and kind of coming up with that, having that creative flow, that it's hard to reflect on it until like a few years afterwards, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We wrote it and we had this big mindset of, I think, because we just toured with Blackberry Smoke just before we started writing it, and if you've seen those guys, they're like the ultimate professionals. They're in their room. They've got a set list of about 50 songs they can pick out of. And here we are just rocking up in our shitty van and trying to match it with these guys. And we didn't deserve to be on the same level as them. So after we went on tour, we came back and we tried to be more, I guess, professional. We tried to be more something we weren't. Our best sort of efforts are literally just having 10 beers and playing as loud as we can. That's when we write our best songs, and we stopped doing that for the second album. So yeah, it wasn't the best.
Well, I think the key thing, I mean, like, we're both big fans of Blackberry Smoke, and I think the key thing that I take from them is that they're very much who they are, you know, and I think that's the same with you boys, you know, and I think that's the key thing you can learn sometimes, that it's better to be true to who you are, and then that releases the best organic material than trying to force something.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, you learn who you are by, you know, having experiences, and I think it probably took us about 4 or 5 years to figure out exactly who we wanted to be and who we were as a band. So that first album was probably a fluke. It was, you know, just raw, 4 guys getting in and writing songs, and they sounded awesome. And then for the next probably 2 years, we sort of found out, yeah, it's actually a bit harder than just, you know, writing a handful of songs and handing them over to a record deal to get you in the charts. You actually kind of have to be true to yourself and be good.
No, that's cool, man. With that in mind, as you say, in terms of the evolution of the band, what was it like when you got to Rebuild Destroy? Did that, compared to the obviously the second album and that first album, did you feel you'd reached more of a climactic point? You know, how was that process for you boys?
Rebuild Destroy was a funny one. So in 2016, we went on tour. Our first headline tour in Europe was 2016, and it was an absolute disaster. Like, we booked in venues way too big, and the ticket sales were okay for us, but the venues were way too big. So the promoters were just like, "Nah, we're not having this. We're pulling the shows." And they pulled the shows. The first 10 shows got cancelled for lack of ticket sales, as we're flying into Berlin. So,
oh fuck,
yeah. So we bought one-way tickets to Europe. We're like, we're going to do 3 months of touring, you know, go get jobs in a bar or something, and then just tour every month, go out on the road into another country and tour. And after 2 weeks, we had no money. We were completely bankrupt because the first 10 shows got cancelled, and we were meant to have accommodation with those shows. Now we were paying for hotels and not making any money, not selling all this merch. We had boxes of merch just sitting there, not being sold. And that was the start of the tour. And yeah, it went from there and it just kept going downhill. We bought a van instead of hiring one because we were going for, you know, unlimited amount of time. So we bought a van, and it lasted 6 days, and the head gasket blew.
Fuck.
We're like, shit, we just spent all the money we had on this van.
God, this is like the ultimate rock and roll test, isn't it?
Oh my God, it was insane. And we got it fixed because we had a week's warranty from this secondhand dealer. That was like, yeah, we'll fix it for you. Awesome. And we drive it out. So we drive it to the first show. The first show was in London. That was probably the second show, actually. But yeah, we got to London, and we're at the Underworld. We're parked out the front of the Underworld. I don't know if you know the area, but there's no parking there. But we're out there loading in and loading out. Starter motor's gone. We're like, you're kidding me. We've just got the head gasket fixed, and now the starter motor's dead. So we're in the middle of London with a van that doesn't work, and all our gear's just spread out on the side of the road. And yeah, we had shows. We had 11 shows in a row after that. This was the second show of the tour. The first 10 shows got cancelled. So we had the worst luck to start with. And then for the next 7 days, we had to roll start this 15-seat minibus because we had no starter motor. So the support bands, us and the support bands would get out every morning and push the van down the street to start it, and then push it at the end of the night to get going again. Every night for the first 7 or 8 shows. It's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, we had lips on, didn't we? And this feels like a scene out of the Anvil film. It's that sort of devastation.
We definitely could have made a movie out of that whole tour. It just kept getting worse and worse. Like the album, as I was saying, the album we thought was amazing, and we kind of got a reality check with the second album that wasn't selling as well. We had everything just like all this hype and all this build up, and then first week sales weren't as good as we thought, and then all the shows got cancelled, so we weren't selling CDs on the road. And then we had UTA as a booking agent, and because all the shows were getting cancelled, like it really wasn't worth it for them, so they dropped us first. And then, you know, we had some pretty frank discussions with Earache, and, you know, we kind of mutually agreed, but they were pretty happy to to let us go. And then our management dropped us, and this was all in the first 3 months of our first headline tour of Europe. So we walked into Europe with a label and an agent and a big management, and and we told all our friends we had this big going away party. We're not coming back for a year. And then after 60 days, we'd had no more gigs, no more money. We had nowhere to go. We had no agent, no management, no label. And we had to fly back to Australia with our, tails between our legs, because we couldn't afford to be in Europe anymore, and we had no money, no gigs to play. So it was a pretty brutal time. And getting back to Rebuild Destroy, like that time at the start of 2017, we almost broke up. We just went back, and that was it. What are we going to do now? Like we'd never been an unsigned independent band having to do it ourselves. We'd never had to do anything ourselves. So we had to learn, either pretty much on the spot, how to learn how to be a band management, how to book our own gigs and how to promote our own gigs and all this stuff. And in the days off on that tour, I actually went and stayed in Manchester for 5 days because we had a bunch of days off, and I went to a charity shop and bought a $20 acoustic guitar because all my gear was in the van, and I just pissed off by myself and bought this cheap acoustic nylon string guitar and just wrote like 6 or 7 songs in this hotel just before Hard Rock Hell. And that was the basis of the third album, was just me in this hotel room with a £20 nylon string guitar. And that was the start of Rebuild Destroy. So when I came back to Australia, I called Ben and I just said, look, let's get in the studio and record. We've got these songs. Fuck it. We had to learn on the spot. We booked our own shows and we promoted our own shows. We self-funded everything. And 4 years later, we haven't got management. We haven't got an agent. We're out of our last localized deal now, so we're completely self-sufficient as a band, and that was out of necessity because everyone packed up and left mid-tour. So yeah, here we are. We're probably better off for it, so we're happy with that.
No, that's cool, man.
Looks like a real kind of learning process, isn't it? It's like you've kind of done the reverse.
Yeah, I was just thinking which I think is much more of a challenging way to do it, because because you've had all the things that everyone aspires and is always trying to aim for, and sometimes, and I think it's a merit to your character and the band as a whole. To be honest, Brad, the fact that you guys are able to almost rise from them ashes and just focus on moving forward, and I think that, and I commend you for that, man, because for a lot of people it would have been difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We our management, after we got back, like we had a meeting with them and they just said, look, we can't do this anymore. It's nothing against you guys personally, but we have a lot of work to do and we can't babysit you guys. And they were pretty blunt about it, and fair enough too, because we weren't the easiest band to deal with at the time. We were a fucking nightmare. Like we all get drunk, we all fuck around. We have a rule that if you miss the bus, you have to find your own way, and we all missed the bus at least once. There was times. There was one time the drummer, he picked up a bird in Amsterdam. It was probably Amsterdam, and we were in Belgium the next day. And we're waiting for him at the hotel till like 1 o'clock, and we're like, we have to drive. We have another show tonight in another country. So we left like Post-it note at the hotel counter with the train times and the train prices for him to get on a train to go into a different country for the gig that night. And we're like, shit. Like, it was okay. He rocked up. He rocked up with the girl he met the night before. But shit, like we're on tour here, and if he doesn't rock up, our show's fucked. People are here to see us and we're not here, kind of thing. So I can understand how much of a hassle we were at the time. We were idiots. And yeah, as I said, we had to learn, and here we are.
That's cool. So similar to ourselves during lockdown, you decided to create the sound age podcast.
Yeah.
Decided to take a bit of a different approach to Sales or Crowcast. You pick kind of a specific topic relating to music loosely, and then focus that around said episode. Was this your intentions from the start of doing that, and like what do you have in the pipeline for the show as it kind of develops?
Yeah, look, I didn't intend to be a podcaster. Just I like talking about music. I live in Germany, and no one gets it here. Like, I can't really go down to the pub and have a yarn with my mates because they all speak a different language. So, you know, the podcast is a way for me to talk about, you know, music, my inner nerd of music topics and stuff that probably doesn't relate to anybody else other than me and a handful of other musicians. But you know, it's a way for me to have that yarn that I'd usually have a drunken chat with a guy at the local pub back in Australia. Now it's in a podcast. So, yeah, look, I've got probably another 8 episodes written. And, you know, I'll sit down and brainstorm ideas at nights when I'm just sitting around with a beer. And, yeah, I don't know how long it could last, but I've got, you know, ideas for part of me wants to do more with local bands like yourselves and really big up local bands, because there's only so many topics you can talk about. You can talk about Spotify, you can talk about music tech and stories that have happened, but a big part of what I'm about is hanging out with mates and playing music that people don't really know. So, you know, I want to incorporate that somehow, and I'm trying to do that. I don't know how yet, but I'm working on it. But yeah, for me, it's just a way to chat and talk shit, and hopefully some people like it. You know, heaps of people keep saying it's really good, and my figures, my numbers, I don't do it for the numbers, but my numbers are like this at the moment. You know, it's not going up or down, which is maybe good. But it's all right. It's fun to talk.
Oh, that's cool, man. We've chatted a lot about it, haven't we, man? You know, and I think it's more about, I think you put it really well, it's just mixing the things that you enjoy doing, and I think people enjoy and listening to that because they can hear that you're passionate about it, and it's there's no falseness there at all, you know, and I think that's definitely the vibe that's coming across.
Yeah. I feel the passion when you talked about the new wave of classic rock movement.
Yeah.
There was, you know, you can hear it in your voice. There's an excitement around that whole kind of thing going on there, and you know, it was just interesting to hear how you talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, the new wave of classic rock, because I come from Australia, and there's if you listen to episode 1 of that podcast, there's a problem in the Australian music scene. There's no new wave of classic rock. There's no kind of groundswell of local bands supporting each other. There's plenty of good bands, but there's no festivals where, you know, bands at like your level and that would never get a festival in Australia. Even if you were, you know, 10 times bigger, you still would never get a festival date because you play classic rock music and because you weren't born because you didn't start in the 1980s. There's just no opportunity. And the funny thing is, we go out on tour. Like, we toured with Glenn Hughes and we toured with Living Colour in Australia, and it's full of these 50-year-old rockers, and they all love it. They all go, "Shit, this is awesome, man! You're like a rock and roll band from the 80s, but you're new." And I'm like, "Yeah, these bands exist, man." But then the next time you go to that city, it's your same local crowd that come, and if the football's on, then no one comes. It's Australia really struggles to have a vibing scene. So when I come to the UK and when we tour the UK and all these people are passionate and people are wearing these new wave of classic rock shirts and people are, you know, sharing bands online, like, it's so different for me and for us as a band. We just go, this is what Australia needs. This is what we want to do. But yeah, we don't have it in Australia, so it's so good to have it somewhere else.
No, that's cool, man. Now going back to the band, so the brand new massive single "Rise" is out July 23rd. What can fans expect from this next chapter of the band? Can you tease us any of what will follow the single?
Yeah. Well, we're unsigned, so we're shopping for a label, and it's the first time we've ever had to do that. So we're learning that now as well. And the single is going to be on the new wave of classic rock compilation.
Cool.
So we actually we had this album written probably a year ago, and because the pandemic keeps going, we don't live anywhere near each other. I'm in Germany. Ben, the guitarist, is in Melbourne. The bass player Brenny's like 3-hour drive from him, and the drummer's like a 10-hour drive north. So when we're not on tour, we don't see each other at all, and we can't record. So, well, we can. We learned how to record via satellite for Rise. When New Wave of Classic Rock came and they said, we want to put you on the album, we're like, yep, cool. So we booked 3 different recording studios and wrote this song. Like, we've got this album written, but I recorded a scratch track here in Germany, sent it to the drummer. He played to the scratch track, sent it to the guitarist, and then we did that, over the internet, and it's actually come out really good. We're happy with it. We kind of learned a new trick under our sleeves. So, yeah, the album's the same as what we've always been. It's fast and dirty and rock and roll, and it's done in a whole new way that we've just learned via the internet.
No, cool. Looking forward to seeing how that comes out, man.
Yeah. We went back to the producer who did our first album, and we just said to him, like, we don't know if you can use this because we don't know if it works. Like, we've never jammed these songs. We've never even played these songs in the same room together. So can you make this work? And he goes, yeah, cool, man. Let me have a listen. And he came back and he goes, yeah, your vocals suck. Do them again. All right. I thought they were pretty good, but okay, no worries.
Being honest, no fucking around.
Yeah, he's a drummer, so he just, as a producer, he goes, yeah, cool, the drums sound great. Here's the volume for the drums. Go fuck up. Go do your vocals again. So, yeah, I went and did the vocals twice for this song, and he still wasn't happy with them, but I said I got no more money, so please just mix it how it is, and I'm happy with it. We think it's really, really fucking good. We think it's, it's... The first song, Rise, is a bit like Motorhead, but with a bit of Axl vocals over the top and just our swagger over the top of it. So, yeah, it's fast rock and roll.
Looking forward to it, man.
So one of the questions we like to ask, Brad, is what musicians do away from the stage. So what's your kind of 9 to 5, shall I say, your average day?
What's my 9 to 5 now?
Yeah. I'm
in a pandemic, man. I don't know when 9 or 5 is. I don't have work outside of music. I just get by with music. I book bands, do some booking. I've got my own little booking agency that I book tours, usually for Aussie bands wanting to come to the UK. I've got Tequila Mockingbird over for their first tour. Black Aces, another band called Ablaze came over last year. Smoking Martha, all these Aussie bands that probably can't do any more in Australia. I try to help them get over to the UK, and that's a little bit of money for me, but it's more of a passion. Play some cover gigs when I can get some cover gigs. I booked 2 festivals over here in Europe, in Germany, which is sort of my wage, I guess. It's an income. It's not enough to survive, but yeah. And other than that, I just sell all these rock and roll cookbooks that we made, that we haven't sold yet. So we kind of overbought them. We sold a ton of them. We've made a good amount of money for it, enough to record an album. But there's boxes of books everywhere in my house. The tour van, which hasn't been even started for a year now, is full of books. You can't even sit in the driver's seat because there's just tons of books piled up because you've got nowhere else in the house to put them.
I imagine at night, the standard Brad evening is just going to bed in your little box of in your little fort made of books.
Look, under this computer desk, there's boxes of books.
No, I love that though, man. I mean, to be fair, right, I've been surprised by the amount of people we've spoken to, Brad, that literally just particularly with the pandemic, I think it's made people think, do you know what, fuck it, like, I'm just gonna live for the music, I'm just gonna, and it feels that even though that can bring its own stresses, because obviously, like you say, it's financially can be quite difficult with nothing on. At least you're being true to yourself. There's some people that I know, the friends and stuff, that are doing jobs working from home that they hate and not passionate about, and they're 100 times more unhappy than people that have chose to dedicate it to music. So I admire you for doing that, man.
I after I wrote the book, I got offered a gig in a kitchen, and I worked 2 days. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time, but I went in and learning how to. I've never worked in a kitchen. I know how to cook. Like those recipes are good. They're my recipes, but never worked in a kitchen with this little machine coming down with, numbers and, cook for these other people. No, I just like to cook for myself. So I worked for 2 days, and I'm just like coming home and I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot do a job. I haven't done a job in 5-6 years now. I haven't done a job that isn't music for that long. So shit, I can't go back to being a worker. I don't know what to do. So yeah, it lasted 2 days and then stuff it. I can't do it.
Was there a dramatic storm out or something like?
Nah, look, the venue is actually, I play some cover gigs there. So I'm on good terms with the owner and all of that. And I just told him, like, I don't have the time to dedicate my mental capacity to this. I'm busy. Like we're booking a tour. And as I said, we do everything ourselves now. So I've got all these support bands to find and all these, posters to print and tickets to make and books to sell and festivals to run. I don't have time to make hamburgers for complete strangers. Sorry.
You've got to get your priorities right. Yeah. That's solid.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, as you know, thankfully you're a fan of the show. We had them scruffy bastards Gorilla Riot on last week.
Yeah, it was good. I like that.
All heard about Fishgate at the Gifford, and I was saying to Ryan, I felt Gorilla Riot, man. We're taking the glory really for your story. Do you know what I mean? Because they were the victims.
Yeah, I noticed that.
They were taking the glory, man, and I think that sums up Gorilla Riot in some ways. Do you have anything better, Brad, that's happened out on the road, whether it be with the Gorilla Riot boys or a different story? I mean, you kind of you're giving us a very sad, movie-esque story with the European tour, which
Sorry about
that. It's cool. I wish it'd been filmed because it could have definitely been some sort of feature. But have you got any other stories from on the road that could take the glory from Gorilla Riot?
What, like pranks or
whatever, man. Open it up.
We've got plenty of prank stories. Where do we start? Do you know, like, we never were a pranking band, but we prank every band we go on tour with now. Like, it's just sort of a thing. And we always try to top ourselves up. But the band that started the pranks was Blackberry Smoke on the 2014 tour.
I'd never guessed that. I think they'd be such lovely blokes.
And they pranked us, and they got us good. So by the second show on that tour, like, we were best mates. Like, they were just such accommodating guys and really cool lads. Like, they just wanted to talk to us about rock and roll. So, we were sharing band rooms every night, like just hanging out and talking and whatnot. And then we kind of brought up this idea. Let's have a super group on the last show. Let's get up and play AC/DC, Highway to Hell.
Wow. And
they were cool. Like, yeah, let's do it. That's awesome. And it got to the last show and we didn't have time to rehearse it. We got up on stage and sound check it or anything. So we went back into our room and we just sat. It's AC/DC, Highway to Hell. It's an easy song, but we didn't want to fuck up in front of Blackberry Smoke. That's insane. So we were rehearsing in our band room and we didn't leave our band room from sound check till going on stage. And as we walk on stage, they'd spent that entire time cutting out perfectly shaped penises. Giant cock and balls and paper and shaped everywhere, and they dressed the entire stage up in cocks and balls. And we hadn't seen it. We'd been in the band room practicing AC/DC for some reason.
This is amazing. I'd never have guessed this,
It's insane. Like, we had no idea that these genuine, serious American musicians that, love their guns and love their God and love rock and roll. And I'm like, shit, these guys are like us, drawing dicks. And we walk out and there's dicks everywhere. There's a giant dick about this big hanging from my microphone, and all our Marshall cymbals have dicks across them, and the cymbals had dicks duct taped to them, so like the cymbals were muted while we're playing. We lived up to it. We were like, fuck it, we'll get through this. It's a 35-minute set. We can play with some dicks on stage, no problems. But then we're like, okay, cool. We got to get them back. This is the last show of the tour. We've got like 90 minutes before we're doing this encore. How are we going to get them back in this time? So we decided to write Blackberry Smoke related messages on our asses in permanent texter, and with the intention of walking out for the encore that we'd planned to do and flashing the entire crowd, smoke this written across our asses and shit like that. And we walk on stage to do the encore, and it's on YouTube. We're playing this big encore with Blackberry Smoke in Sweden in front of, 1,500 people in the theatre, and it's crazy, and we're having the best time of our lives. And they give us this big wrap up at the end. Thank you so much to Massive. We do this big group bow to everybody, and then we walk off stage, and we totally forgot to show our asses.
Oh, fucking hell, no!
So we spent an hour and a half writing permanent markers on each other's asses, because it's impossible to write on your own bum. So here I am writing on the guitarist, and the guitarist is writing on the drummer, and writing these messages, and no one ever saw them. So that was prank number one, and then we just had to go from there. We just went, fuck it. When we're on tour, when we're the main band, let's fuck up the support band. So
fuck, we're gigging with you as well on this next tour, aren't we?
Yeah, we should. We should see what we can
get Dan, because Dan won't be able to emotionally process it.
Yeah, right.
And that'll be very enjoyable for everyone else.
See, what we do, we don't want to piss anybody off. We're dickheads, but we're not assholes. So
100%, man.
Yeah. So we went on tour with the Rocket Dolls, and they're pretty serious lads. Like we didn't know if they could handle a joke, so we kind of told them beforehand, look, we're probably going to prank you before the end. And are you cool with that? And they're like, yeah, cool, man. We're up for anything. All right, cool. So every night we scared them. We would stand side of stage and pretending we're going to do something and did nothing. And then on the last show, they had this serious music. Like they walk on stage and it's this like haunting, like horror music, and they all stand there like dolls. And it's run through the PA. So first we replaced their music with porn sounds, and they're all on stage. We're all on stage, like standing still, and you can just see, for like a minute and a half. They couldn't do anything until their backing track finished. And then that was only the start, because before that, we'd gone to the shop and bought as much like children's clothing as possible. Like, and I'm talking like pink unicorn shirts for 3-year-old girls, and candy and fairy floss and just all this random shit that you could never imagine a rock band having. And while they're on stage, we completely cleared their merch stand and replaced everything with baby clothes. And for some reason, our bassist decided to get Barbie dolls, and because they're the Rocket Dolls, so we got Barbie dolls and mutilated them, like burnt them and pulled their arms off and stuck the arms up the arse, and just horrifying shit. You don't want to see it. And put them on the merch stand everywhere. So they walk off stage and they go to the merch stand, and there's just pink. Everything is pink. And because it was the last show, we said, look, if you guys want to get us back, go for it. We're about to go on stage. You got 90 minutes to fuck us up. And they did. They walked out of the venue, went and bought shaving cream, and we walked on stage, and they just pounded us. The stage was soaking wet and slippery, and we had... we couldn't open our eyes. We had shaving cream in our eyes and shit. But they didn't realise we did a third prank. So while they were playing, after their porn noises and after we turned their merch stand into a Barbie set, we also went and bought like 10 cans of hot dogs and about 10 rolls of cling wrap, and cling wrapped hot dogs to their entire van, and to the point where you couldn't open doors. And they're all vegans and vegetarians, and their whole van was covered in hot dogs. You couldn't get in, and you could smell it. Like we cleared it off with them because we felt bad, but like we're standing there at the end of the night, and there's just hot dog juice everywhere around their van. Sorry, guys, but
fucking
yeah,
amazing.
we like to fuck up people.
That intro music one was the best. That's insane.
They couldn't. They thought it was them because they've got their little samples and everything on the side as well, and they're all
one of them's been watching porn.
and credit to them because they stuck with it. They do this pose thing where they don't move on stage because they're dolls.
Hold it.
They're holding it. And you can see them like, shit. What are we going to do? Yeah. They took it in their stride. They were happy to accept defeat that night. And Gorilla Riot had to accept defeat when we fished their car. But Nicky Smash actually got us back on the Gorilla Riot tour. I think we were playing in Bridgend, maybe somewhere down south. And there's a guy, I don't know if you know him, Pie Man.
Yeah,
Pie Man. He rocked up to our gig and he goes, "Boys, I made you guys some pies. Love your band and whatnot." Yeah, cool, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. We'll have them for breakfast. Cool. So we sit down for our breakfast with all these pies, and it's got our names on the top. We're like, oh, that's so cool, man.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
What a legend. We cut them open and they're full of socks. And Nikki Smash from Rocket Dolls had gone and hired Pie Man to make us a bunch of sock pies. So that was his, comeback for us. So yeah, we're happy to give and we're happy to take. So.
Oh, it's a good way. I like your vibe on it, man.
One thing that I like to end on is it's kind of a hypothetical question. So if you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
Yeah. Don't know. Probably the past is easy. When we started the band, all we wanted to do, I think Arjun actually said the same answer. All we wanted to do was be Guns N' Roses live at the Ritz, 1988. That's the gig. That concert, that MTV concert, was our basis for the band. They're not in tune, they're not in time, they're all pissed off their heads, but it's so entertaining that you can't look away. And that was our motto for the band. Let's just get so pissed and be so stupid. And look, we're never going to be the tightest band in the world. Like, we don't rehearse, but let's be entertaining as fuck. So that was our motto. So if I could play any gig from the past, any band from the past, would be Guns N' Roses, 1988 live at the Ritz. That's pretty specific.
Beautiful choice.
Good.
Probably currently, I don't know. There's lots of bands that I like. I mean, it'd be good to play with Guns N' Roses now. It'd be good to play with Guns N' Roses anytime because that's who we want to be, really. I've got the attitude of Axl. Probably don't have the voice, but the tantrums got down pat. Give him a run for his money. I don't want to. That sounds a bit crappy, doesn't it? Guns N' Roses in the past and Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, we can't give you that, man.
No, I can't have that.
Come on, you can have the Ritz. The Ritz has been chosen, but I think Jack from Piston had the Ritz
Jack
as well.
Oh, did he? Yeah, that's such a good
lot of people
gig. I love
pinpoint that one specific gig as well. So you can have them for the old, but we'll probably have to
Thank you.
For the new.
Well, keep it Australian and go with AC/DC. Love to go on tour with those boys.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That'd be a good lineup. Who would you have headline? DC or Ritz or Guns N' Roses?
Oh, the promoter in me says AC/DC's got a headline, just for money's value. Like, you want to get everyone in and sell some beers, but honestly, I'm more of a Gunners fan than an AC/DC fan. Like, our music is very a mix between both, but I'm definitely on the Gunners side.
That was our guess before, wasn't it? We always have a little guess before, and we thought it was probably going to be a toss-up between GNR and DC.
Yeah, look, we're all fans of AC/DC, but if you asked us what our top 10 favourite bands are, not inspiration for the band, but AC/DC probably wouldn't even be in my top 10, really. Like, I like the bluesy kind of attitude style rock and roll, quite like yourselves, but AC/DC is great, but it's probably not even in my top 10 favourite bands. But then again, Massive has, at least 50% of us sound like AC/DC, so there you go.
Oh, bless you. Well, thanks ever so much to Brad for joining us for Massive for joining us for a chat. Bastard. Nice bit of editing there for Ryan.
So close, Ed. So close. We're right at the end.
Thanks to Brad from Massive for joining us for a chat. Their UK and Ireland tour kicks off October 14th in Glasgow. They're hitting pretty much every major city in the country. Some of them supported by me and the boys. So make sure you come and check it out to celebrate telling the pandemic to fuck off.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Brad. It was lovely to see you, brother. Thanks for your time.
You too. It was great. Great. Thanks for the chat, guys. Rock and roll.
I really enjoyed it, man.
Cool one. Cheers. Yes, so that was Brad from Massive.
Where's my fucking cheese? Did I do it well? Did I do it?
What is that?
Brad, it's just
That sounded like some Geordie.
I think I've offended like nine like different cultures, in one voice. I really enjoyed that. I mean, obviously, I know Brad. I chat to him about his podcast and stuff, and chat to him about music things and stuff. And he's a fucking great guy. And the man lives and breathes the scene, and it's really interesting. We reflected afterwards, didn't we? Right, that I admire the fact that he's not letting put him down the journey that him and the band have been on. He's trying to use it as a motivation to move forward. And you have to admire him for that because he's been through a lot of struggles that most people at this point would walk away from.
Yeah. For me, the big thing was like they've they've learned as they've gone on. Like they didn't have that kind of 5-6 year period of where you can learn.
Very important, that.
Yeah, and it is really important. And the thing is, now they're distributing their own things, so they've learned all these new skills, and to come through that and actually grow as a band, really, isn't it? They've now got, they came from Australia just being able to play the music, but not for very long. Whereas now they're doing everything.
It's like a flower. You're gonna like this.
Here we go.
It's gonna be big. It's like a flower growing into a flower and then becoming a seed. Do you know what I mean?
Growing into a flower and becoming a seed.
Yeah. So imagine you planted a flower.
Right.
No, you've not done that. What was I thinking? So you put a flower, put a seed.
Right.
Got a seed.
Stick with us, people.
And then next day you've come out and it's flower. And it's like shit.
Right, I understand now. I'm following you.
It's gonna be big. This will be on magnets and stuff as well. Fridge magnets.
But not this long though, because we haven't got as much magnet.
It's gonna be tiny text.
Yeah.
What was it say?
Can't even read it.
So imagine you come out the next day, it's a flower, and then eventually it ends up going back to being a seed, and now it's got to learn how to be a flower again. That was emotional. That was beautiful. Your words, not mine. But yeah, and I really admire him and the boys. They're fucking good band, man.
Yes.
And I can't wait to gig with them again and to hear new material, man. Yeah.
You've got to prepare yourself for a prank.
They won't. I mean, if they prank Dan, that's the ultimate. Do you know what I mean? That's all I need. I think I can deal with pranks. I'm not too bad. How would you deal with a prank?
Depends what kind of prank it is.
They showed you off.
Oh Jesus! No, that's the line, man. I'd murder somebody.
At one point, there was about a £300 bounty on my hair from my friends, and I used to have to wake up early after a night out. Wow! And wake up and fuck it and start get ready because
that's my line.
People were coming down and they were getting ready to cut it off. And I had to sit me on a circle and go, listen, if anybody cuts my hair off, I'll never talk to you again. Do you know what I mean? It's serious chats. But no, I enjoyed it. It was a good chat. And for those that haven't checked out the Sound Age podcast, make sure you go and check it out. We've got to support our fellow podcasters. Yes. And with that in mind, if you are watching on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe, as well as the Sound Age podcast. Listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, jump onto YouTube. You get to see the faces of the guys we're interviewing, as well as me and Ryan's beautiful faces. What's happening in Facebook and Instagram world?
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, tell me about that world.
Oh, well, you'll find that on a Wednesday.
No, a Wednesday.
We're venturing into such partridge territory. You'll find that on a Wednesday that there'll be a teaser out every week where you'll find out who the guest is.
Got some good guests coming up, haven't we, right?
As ever, we always have great guests.
Quality is solid at this point.
Very fortunate.
Good of us to say. Compliment ourselves.
I mean, I have to say that our quality of guests are pretty good.
It's fantastic.
But yes, on that note, that is it for this week.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. And as a side note to Brad, who is still listening now, if you can make sure that these Wicked Reviews come out to pornography.
No, don't do that, because we have actually got an intro
song. That would be fantastic. That would make my year.
Don't
Brad.
do that.
So
we're all right, me and you, Brad. There's not a problem there. Don't worry about that.
So, yeah, just store that away. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.